The lemming is a small rodent that's found in the Arctic and has sadly been the recipient of many misconceptions over the years. The biggest of these is the idea that they're so dumb that they'll willingly participate in mass suicide by jumping off cliffs thanks to migratory behaviour. This has since proved to be, for the most part, false. However, films like Walt Disney's 1958 White Wilderness did not help with these misunderstandings, since it's alleged that video shown of lemmings jumping off a cliff into a river and drowning was in fact staged by the film crew. These poor lemmings have suffered in popular culture thanks to films like White Wilderness, since it appears their behaviour is made up, but it at least spawned a very popular video game series. Lemmings has been released on many systems, but today we're reviewing the Master System port, which was released in 1992 by Psygnosis and DMA Design. This is actually my first Master System review, and it's the first of 3 firsts, as I've obtained several new consoles in the last few months. So stay tuned for those. This is also the first time I reviewed the same game on 2 different systems, with myself also reviewing the SNES port in 2015. There should be a card somewhere on screen now if you want to see that, but otherwise, let's get into the review. Lemmings is a puzzle game. It even states as such on the box. The goal is to move a bunch of lemmings from one location to the next, and you're in full control of their actions since they're apparently so brain dead. There are many ways that lemmings can eventuate in a grisly end thanks to obstacles like water, lava and hidden traps, but there are a bunch of skills that can be allocated to each individual. It's teamwork to save as many as possible, although you're the site foreman. There are 8 different skills all up, so hold on to your respective bits as we make our way through them. First off, there is the climber. As described, this little tucker will climb vertically on any object he finds on his travels. Should be noted that even though other skills can be assigned after the fact, they'll still climb things regardless. Secondly, there's the floater. Instead of falling to their doom if they walk off an edge, they'll pull an Umbrella Mary Poppins style and glide to safety as long as there is a walkable surface underneath. Like the climber, they'll retain this skill for the whole level. Next up, we have the bomber. Once activated, they'll explode after 5 seconds. Although the surrounding area will be destroyed as well, this doesn't hurt other lemmings. The 4th skill is a blocker, who deflects lemmings and makes them walk in the opposite direction. Next, there is the builder. They will build a staircase in the direction they're facing for a limited time, after which they can either continue to build, depending on how many skills are available of course, or they can go back to being a normal walker. Next up, there are 3 skills to do with digging. Not all surfaces can be dug through, although if possible, the basher digs horizontally, the miner on an angle, and the digger vertically. The rest are walkers and will aimlessly amble to the right continuously, unless deflected by a blocker or another object. This may all seem a tad overwhelming initially, but the first few stages progress you through each skill individually, so be quite comfortable switching through each skill after a few plays. There are other factors to consider also. Each level has a time limit for instance, and there are only a limited amount of skills available, so you have to be careful with how and when you use them. The speed at which lemmings fall into the level vary too, so you'll have to be careful that they're not in any immediate danger if they're popping out too quickly. Most levels, at least early on, do not require you to save every single lemming, so it's okay to sacrifice a few for the common good of the rest. Having the blockers self-terminate after the rest have been rescued is a good example of this, as it's quite hard to stop them from being blockers and easier just to blow them up if possible. While there is no conventional level reset, if you do screw up too much, there is the option to blow them all up, which will end the level. I don't know what the deal is with this game and blowing lemmings up, but let's try to not overthink it. While there does seem to be a lot to consider while playing, I found Lemmings to be quite a cruisy experience. Relaxing even. When you start a new level, you're given the chance to preview it without any lemmings or time constraints so you can prepare yourself, but there is also the ability to pause. While paused, you can still move around the level and even select skills, so there is not much of a sweat if you quickly need to assign a skill to one lemming, followed by a different skill to another. However, as some of you may know, the pause button is actually on the Master System itself. Luckily, I play in a way that the Master System is right next to me, but it was still a bit of fun to try and pause in the heat of the gameplay. This port of Lemmings includes a staggering 120 levels. While some were simplified for the Master System, there is a huge amount of content available. These get really challenging too, but not undoable, don't get me wrong. But they do start to take a very long time to complete, as they require a lot of trial and error instead of actual puzzle solving, especially with step building. Stitched these all together, there is a password system, so if there is a particular level you like and wish to replay, all can be accessed again quite easily. The graphics in this port of Lemmings are fairly basic compared to others, but I'm impressed by the fact that the real-time destructive environments are even in this version. The detail is a bit squashed together though, and the icons for choosing the skills are particularly affected. At first, I was referring to the instruction manual constantly because the mush of pixels for each icon could be a bit hard to discern at times, but I got used to it eventually. The music is the usual Lemmings fare, being mostly nursery rhymes. I can't say this was a bad thing for the most part. While they are known and basic, they were at least seemingly created by a skillful programmer. They do repeat a bit too much though, more than the SNES version anyway, so listening to "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain" for the upteenth time got a bit on my nerves after a while. Otherwise, there are a few sound bites included, which is always nice for a system as old as the Master System. The Lemmings will enthusiastically exclaim, "Let's go!" when you start, and "Oh no!" when you blow them up. There were only the two, but they never got old. Poor Lemmings. Lemmings is fun, entertaining, but most importantly, quite lengthy. This is a game you could potentially play for a very long time and get your money's worth, as long as the nursery rhymes don't drive you crazy first. The developer, DMA Designs, ultimately got its big break with Lemmings. They have since formed into another company that you may or may not be aware of. Like I said in the SNES review though, if you don't own a Master System or a SNES, then it's very likely you have another console that has a port of Lemmings on it. It's probably one of the most ported games of all time, and is available on most things pre the 5th generation.